Imagine for a moment that you were born into extreme poverty, in a small town, the son of a humble weaver. Your chances of success seem nil. However, decades later you have become the richest man in the United States, the most powerful steel tycoon, with an estimated fortune, adjusted to current values, in the range of $310 to $372 billion. How is such a feat possible? What is the secret to going from shining shoes to amassing a colossal fortune? The story of Andrew Carnegie is a living testimony that no matter where you come from, with determination, hard work, and a growth-focused mindset, you can reach unimaginable heights. His life is a masterful lesson on how to seize opportunities, overcome obstacles, and forge your own destiny. As Napoleon Hill, the renowned author of Think and Grow Rich, aptly said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." And Andrew Carnegie is living proof of this maxim. Through his example, he reveals to us the 11 fundamental principles for success in business and in life. But first, give this video a super like and subscribe to our channel. Let's begin. Andrew Carnegie was born in 1835 in Dunfermline, Scotland, into an extremely poor family. His father William was a weaver who sometimes earned a living as a shoeshiner, while his mother Margaret was an independent worker. From a very early age, Andrew had to work in precarious conditions to help support his family. The reality of the Carnegie family was a reflection of the harsh situation Scotland was going through at that time. The Industrial Revolution had left many artisans and weavers jobless, replaced by more efficient machines. Living conditions for the working class were deplorable, with long working hours, miserable wages, and little or no access to education. But despite the adverse circumstances, young Andrew demonstrated from early on an indomitable spirit and an insatiable thirst for learning. His uncle, who worked in public service and would later venture into politics, instilled in him a love for reading and knowledge. Andrew devoured books whenever he had the chance, cultivating a curious and agile mind. In the midst of the economic crisis ravaging Scotland, the Carnegies decided to emigrate to America in search of a better future. In 1848, at just 13 years old, Andrew arrived in Pittsburgh, United States, bringing with him little more than his determination and his love for learning. 1. Leave behind laziness and embrace hard work for success. Laziness travels so slowly that poverty soon overtakes it. Benjamin Franklin. From the first moment in his new land, Andrew Carnegie demonstrated a tireless work ethic. He began by shining shoes on the streets to earn money, despite his eagerness to study. He then worked alongside his father in a cotton mill. By age 15, he had already had several jobs, from manufacturing threads to being a messenger in a telegraph office. The lesson is clear. Don't wait for others to solve your problems. Take action. Start with what you have and work hard to improve your situation. Laziness is the enemy of progress. As Abraham Lincoln said, "Things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle." But beyond simply working hard, Carnegie understood from a young age the importance of doing things with excellence. He wasn't content with being just another employee, but sought to stand out in every task he undertook. As a messenger, he memorized the names and addresses of his clients, providing a personalized and efficient service. In the factory, he quickly learned the necessary skills and strove to be the best in his position. This attitude of going beyond what was expected, of putting passion and care into every detail, would be a constant in Carnegie's life. As he himself would later say, "There is little that a man cannot accomplish if he devotes himself to it with all the power of his mind." Laziness, mediocrity, conformism had no place in his philosophy of life. So if you want to start building your own path to success, the first step is to banish laziness from your life. Embrace hard work, discipline, excellence in everything you do. Don't settle for being just another face in the crowd. Always look for ways to stand out and add value. As successful entrepreneur Michael Gerber said, "Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it." 2. Reading is the master key to continuous learning. Reading all good books is like a conversation with the finest minds of past centuries. René Descartes. Despite the long working hours, Carnegie took advantage of his free moments to go to a small library and delight in reading. He understood the transformative power of books. Through them, he was acquiring the experience and wisdom of a lifetime, getting ahead in time. At a time when access to formal education was limited, Especially for someone of humble origins like Carnegie, books became his great teachers. Through reading, he could learn about history, philosophy, science, literature, economics. He could learn the ideas and strategies of the great thinkers and leaders of the past. As business magnate Warren Buffett once said, "The best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. The best book you can read is the book that most interests you. It can be fiction, biography, history, whatever, but make sure it's something that excites you so you'll read it from cover to cover." Create the habit of reading. Books are a window to new worlds, an inexhaustible source of knowledge about business, investing, personal growth, and life lessons. As Mark Twain emphasized, "The man who does not read good books has no advantage over the man who cannot read them." But reading is not simply about accumulating information. It's about cultivating a curious, open mind, capable of making unexpected connections and generating new ideas. Reading exposes us to diverse perspectives, challenges us to question our assumptions, and inspires us to think big. As author and speaker Brian Tracy reminds us, reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. Just as exercise strengthens our muscles, reading strengthens our intellect, our creativity, our problem-solving ability. So if you want to accelerate your personal and professional growth, make reading a daily habit. Read about topics that excite you, that awaken your curiosity. It's not about reading for the sake of reading, but reading with a purpose, seeking knowledge and perspectives that you can apply in your life and projects. And remember, as French philosopher Denis Diderot said, "People stop thinking when they stop reading." So keep your mind active and constantly expanding through the wonderful habit of reading. 3. A solid relationship network is your greatest treasure. The single most powerful asset we all have is our network of relationships that you can build and nurture. Keith Ferrazzi. The job as a messenger was key in Carnegie's life. It allowed him to interact with businessmen, merchants, politicians, and wealthy people. He strove to memorize their names, streets, and important places. He addressed them respectfully, building a network of contacts that would later be crucial on his path to success. Carnegie understood from a young age that success in business and in life depends largely on the relationships we cultivate. It's not just about what you know, but who you know. As business magnate Harvey Mackay said, "Tell everyone what you want to do, and someone will want to help you do it." But building relationships is not simply about accumulating business cards or social media followers. It's about forging genuine connections based on mutual respect, generosity, and value creation. Carnegie treated everyone with kindness and respect. From the humblest worker to the most powerful businessman, he took a genuine interest in people, their stories, and their needs. This ability to establish meaningful relationships would be instrumental in his business ascent. Later on, when Carnegie began doing his own business, he was able to draw on that network of contacts he had cultivated from a young age. Clients, suppliers, partners, mentors, all of them were key pieces in building his empire. As networking expert Ivan Misner reminds us, networking is more about farming for new relationships than hunting them. It's not about simply getting something from others, but about building lasting, mutually beneficial bonds. So if you want to accelerate your own path to success, start cultivating your network of relationships. Attend events in your industry, participate in groups and associations, connect with people you admire and can learn from. But above all, focus on giving before receiving. Look for ways to add value to others, to be a useful and trustworthy resource. Reciprocity is a powerful force in business and in life. 4. Stand on the shoulders of giants and accelerate your path to triumph. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Isaac Newton. A turning point in Carnegie's life was when he met Thomas Scott, a pioneer in the railroad industry. Scott saw potential in young Andrew and decided to hire him as his secretary and telegrapher. Carnegie understood the value of allying himself with people more experienced and intelligent than himself. In his role as Scott's assistant, Carnegie had the opportunity to learn firsthand about the workings of a fast-growing company. Scott became his mentor, teaching him about administration, finance, strategy, and leadership. Carnegie absorbed every lesson like a sponge, then applying them in his own ventures. This experience would be instrumental in Carnegie's later success. As he himself would acknowledge, I had the good fortune of beginning work in the railroads at 17 years of age, and my superior was one of the most exceptional men I have ever met, Thomas Alexander Scott. I never tired of studying that man, and I learned a lot from him. The lesson here is clear. If you want to go far, seek mentors, strategic partners who can guide you. It doesn't matter if you start with a small part of the business. What's valuable is the learning you will gain. Stand on the shoulders of giants, and you will be able to see beyond the horizon. But finding a good mentor is not just a matter of luck. It requires being proactive, being willing to learn and add value. Carnegie didn't just sit around waiting for Scott to notice him. He stood out for his work ethic, his attention to detail, his ability to build relationships. He made Scott see in him a valuable ally, someone he could trust with increasing responsibilities. As entrepreneur and author Darren Hardy reminds us, never ask someone to be your mentor. Make them ask you. In other words, focus on being the best version of yourself, on developing skills and attitudes that make you attractive to potential mentors. And remember, a good mentor not only shares knowledge but also challenges you to step out of your comfort zone, to think big and pursue your boldest dreams. As business magnate Richard Branson said, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you're not sure you can do it, say yes, then learn how to do it later. So don't be afraid to seek the guidance of those who have walked the path before you. Learn from their successes and failures. Let their experience illuminate your own journey. And someday, maybe it will be you extending a hand to guide the next generation of entrepreneurs and leaders. 5. An unshakable ambition is the engine of great achievements. Ambition is the path to success. Persistence is the vehicle you arrive in. Bill Bradley. Carnegie demonstrated an insatiable hunger to grow and advance. His exceptional performance, discipline, and good reputation led him to be promoted to superintendent of the Western Division of Railroad Service at age 24. He understood that to advance, he must always give extra. This ambition was not simply a selfish desire to accumulate power or wealth. It was an expression of his passion for continuous learning, for taking on new challenges and responsibilities. Carnegie saw each promotion not as an end in itself, but as a platform to continue growing and contributing at a higher level. As he himself would say, the elevation of a man to a higher position in any branch of business means that he has shown himself to be a great receiver. That is worth much more, in my opinion, than the possession of an inherited fortune. But ambition, to be effective, must be accompanied by persistent action. It's not enough to dream big. You have to be willing to do the hard and constant work to turn those dreams into reality. Carnegie was known for his tireless work ethic, his meticulous attention to detail, and his determination to overcome any obstacle. As author Napoleon Hill reminds us, persistence to ambition is what coal is to the locomotive, the fuel that drives it. Without persistence, even the grandest dreams remain mere fantasies. So if you want to rise in your career or business, cultivate a healthy ambition, set challenging but achievable goals, and map out an action plan to reach them. But above all, keep moving, even when facing difficulties or setbacks. As entrepreneur and speaker, Jim Rohn said, "Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments." And remember, true ambition is not about comparing yourself to others or seeking external approval. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, fully leveraging your talents and abilities to make a positive difference in the world. As philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson expressed, ambition is the path to success. Persistence is the vehicle you arrive in. If you're committed to your financial freedom, be sure to hit like on the video and subscribe to our channel. 6. Invest wisely to reap riches in the future. The intelligent investor does not make large investments until he sees large opportunities. Benjamin Graham. Thomas Scott was not only a mentor to Carnegie, but also introduced him to the world of investing. He encouraged him to invest $600, a considerable sum then, in Adams Express, a promising transportation company. This decision would mark the beginning of building his empire. Carnegie quickly learned that investing is not simply about following hunches or popular trends. It requires careful analysis, a deep understanding of the industry, and a long-term vision. Before committing his capital, Carnegie would thoroughly research companies, assess their growth potential, and calculate risks and rewards. As he would later explain, The secret of success in business and investments is to buy shares in businesses that are so valuable that a businessman would wish to own them entirely at the current selling prices in the market. But beyond due diligence, Carnegie also understood the power of investments to generate wealth over time. Through compound interest and capital appreciation, even small sums invested regularly can grow exponentially. As legendary investor Warren Buffett reminds us, someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. In other words, the investment decisions you make today can have a profound impact on your financial future. So if you want to build your own path to financial independence, make saving and investing a regular habit. Educate yourself on the basics of personal finance and investing. Seek advice from trusted experts and develop an investment plan suitable to your goals and risk tolerance. And remember, as business magnate John D. Rockefeller said, don't rely on unexpected opportunities. Wait for them to come, look ahead, think, work hard, and be patient, always staying prepared. 7. Own your destiny by owning your business. The rich and rewarding businesses are the ones you control and are an owner of. J. Paul Getty. With the profits from his investments, Carnegie was able to buy shares in the railroad car manufacturing company, Pennsylvania Railroad Company. He gradually acquired more ownership until becoming one of the owners. He understood that to win big, he had to be an owner, not just an employee. This ownership mindset would be fundamental in Carnegie's business success. He wasn't content with being just another cog in the corporate machinery. He wanted to have control over his destiny, to be able to make strategic decisions and directly benefit from the fruits of his labor. As he himself would say, the successful man is he who has the qualities of leadership, the ability to accumulate capital, and the vision to see what others do not see. Owning your own business gives you the freedom and responsibility to shape that vision. But ownership also carries risks and challenges. It requires a resilient mindset, capable of navigating uncertainty and adapting to change. Carnegie faced numerous obstacles on his path, from economic crises to labor strikes, but his determination and his ability to think strategically allowed him to overcome. As entrepreneur and author Michael Gerber reminds us, the true product of a business is the business itself. In other words, your goal as an owner is not simply to sell a product or service, but to build a system that can function and grow sustainably, even without your constant presence. So if you dream of being your own boss, of creating something of lasting value, start by cultivating an ownership mindset. Identify opportunities in the market, develop a solid business plan, and surround yourself with a capable and committed team. But above all, maintain a clear vision of what you want to achieve and why it's important to you and the world. And remember, as business magnate and philanthropist John D. Rockefeller said, don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. Owning your own destiny can be challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. 8. Well-cultivated capital is the seed of exponential growth. The art of getting rich consists not only in accumulating money, but in knowing how to preserve it. Orison Swett Marden. Carnegie was a master at accumulating capital. He wisely reinvested his profits in businesses related to metallurgy and metal smelting. He understood that money begets money, but it must be managed with discipline and respect, as it represents years of effort and sacrifice. One of the keys to Carnegie's financial success was his ability to live below his means and constantly reinvest his earnings. He wasn't seduced by luxuries or ostentatious consumption. Instead, he maintained a relatively modest lifestyle and focused his resources on growing his businesses. As he himself would explain, the man who dies rich dies in disgrace. The wise man must be generous with his fortune and live to enjoy the satisfaction of watching his wealth well distributed before it passes into other hands, perhaps not so wise. But accumulating capital is not simply about saving for the sake of saving. It's about putting that money to work, investing it in assets that generate cash flows and appreciation over time. Carnegie understood the power of dividends, rents, and capital gains to multiply his wealth. As investor and author Robert Kiyosaki reminds us, it's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. The true power of capital lies in its ability to work for you, even while you sleep. So if you want to build your own financial fortress, make capital accumulation a priority. live below your means, save regularly, and seek opportunities to invest in productive assets. But above all, maintain an abundance and gratitude mindset, recognizing that your wealth is a tool to do good in the world. 9. Master finance, the compass that guides to wealth. Accounting is the language of business. Warren Buffett. During his time at Pennsylvania Railroad, Carnegie became an expert in financial management and cost control. He knew that it wasn't enough to make money, but it was crucial to know how to manage it efficiently. Carnegie understood that finance is the circulatory system of any business. Without a healthy and predictable cash flow, even companies with the best products or services can fail. That's why he dedicated countless hours to studying financial statements, analyzing ratios and trends, identifying opportunities for efficiency and growth. As he himself would say, a business that knows nothing of its costs is a business in the dark. Every business would fail if the owners steadfastly refused to pay the due attention to costs and selling prices. Meticulous attention to the numbers is not optional. It's a necessity for survival and success. But mastering finance is not just about being a good accountant. It's about using that information to make strategic decisions, to identify opportunities and mitigate risks. Carnegie used his understanding of numbers to negotiate better deals with suppliers, optimize processes, and invest in innovation and growth. As investor and entrepreneur Mark Cuban reminds us, sales cures all. In other words, a healthy business requires not only strict expense control, but also a relentless focus on generating revenue and creating customer value. So if you want to take your business or personal finances to the next level, make mastery of numbers a priority. Educate yourself on the basics of accounting and financial analysis. Keep clear and up-to-date records of your income and expenses. Use that information to make informed and timely decisions. And remember, as entrepreneur and author Dave Ramsey said, tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Financial control is not about limiting your freedom, but about empowering your dreams and aspirations. 10. Embrace calculated risks to catapult your growth. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that's changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. Mark Zuckerberg. In 1864, Carnegie saw the opportunity to invest in oil and iron and steel manufacturing. He decided to use his accumulated capital to expand his operations. He understood that to achieve exponential growth, he had to be willing to take calculated risks. This willingness to risk the known for the possible would be a constant in Carnegie's business life. He wasn't content with maintaining the status quo, with simply protecting what he had already built. He knew that great rewards required great bets, that growth often lay outside the comfort zone. As he himself would say, the first man gets to the open field a step ahead of the rest. Business judges most severely the man who rests content upon a moderate success than him who fails because he made a brave effort to triumph. But taking risks doesn't mean being reckless or impulsive. Carnegie based his decisions on careful analysis of the market, on a deep understanding of trends and opportunities. He calculated the odds and potential rewards, and then acted with decisiveness and speed to seize the moment. As entrepreneur and author Peter Drucker reminds us, whenever you see a successful business, someone once made a courageous decision. Growth requires courage. It requires being willing to challenge expectations and rewrite the rules of the game. So if you want to take your life or business to the next level, cultivate a growth mindset. Don't settle for what you've already achieved, however impressive it may be. Constantly seek out new opportunities to learn, to innovate, to expand your horizons. But remember, as author and motivational speaker Les Brown said, the goals and dreams that don't scare you a little bit aren't worth it. If it's something you know you can easily accomplish, then it's not a big enough goal. Growth requires faith. It requires being willing to take the leap even when you can't see the other side. 11. Innovate boldly to thrive in a constantly changing world. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. Steve Jobs. Carnegie revolutionized construction by using steel instead of iron to build stronger bridges and skyscrapers. He was a visionary who understood the power of innovation to catapult his business and transform an entire nation. This passion for innovation was not simply a matter of intellectual curiosity. Carnegie understood that in a constantly changing world, the ability to adapt and evolve was a necessity for survival. Companies that clung to old ways of doing things, that resisted change, were doomed to irrelevance. As he himself would say, the business emperors who failed were those who did not realize the necessity for constant change. Innovation is not a luxury, it's a strategic imperative. But innovating is not simply about adopting the latest technology or following fleeting fads. It's about constantly questioning assumptions, looking for ways to do things better, faster, more efficiently. It's about deeply understanding the needs and desires of customers and finding creative ways to satisfy them. As entrepreneur and author Seth Godin reminds us, the key is not to have new ideas, but to have the courage to abandon the old ones. Innovation requires an open mindset, a willingness to experiment and learn from failures. So if you want to stay relevant and competitive in a rapidly evolving world, make innovation a priority. Cultivate a culture of curiosity and experimentation in your organization. Actively seek out diverse perspectives and ideas. And above all, maintain a relentless focus on creating real value for your customers and stakeholders. And remember, as visionary entrepreneur Jeff Bezos said, if you're focused on the customers, you're open to innovating. But if you're focused on the competition, you'll scare yourself. True innovation is not about following others, but about boldly leading toward new horizons. Beyond his vast fortune, Carnegie's legacy lies in the timeless lessons he left us, which are the bricks that pave the path to wealth. It's an inspiring reminder that no matter how humble our origins, with the right principles and an unbreakable mindset, we can achieve greatness. Your origin does not define your destiny. You have the power to forge your own story, to turn dreams into reality. So go out into the world, apply these principles in your life and in your businesses, and build an empire that transcends generations. Remember the words of philosopher Lao Tzu, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Take that first step today, and let Andrew Carnegie's extraordinary journey be the compass that guides your own ascent to the pinnacle of success. The rest will be history. If you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Share the link with your friends and loved ones. We'd love to read your comments. Thank you, and see you next time.